Chapter 57, 12 Awakening Transformations. A hint of surprise flashed through the blood heavenly ghost's eyes, clearly taken aback by the fact that it was unable to completely pulverize Hanli's body with its crushing grip. However, it then harumphed coldly as a series of thick crimson patterns appeared all over its body, and its arms bulged as it tightened its grip with all its might, determined to crush Hanli with brute force. A pained look appeared on Hanli's face, but his body remained as resolute as a piece of indestructible iron essence, refusing to be crushed, no matter how much force the blood heavenly ghost exerted. Right at this moment, a burst of golden light suddenly erupted from Hanli's body, and countless golden scales appeared over his skin. While 5 specks of blue light emerged on his chest and abdomen, he then let loose a low roar as he spread his arms outward with all his might, resisting against the vice-like grip around him. A stunned look appeared on the blood heavenly ghost's face as its fingers were slowly forced apart by Han Li. With the space that was opened up around him, Han Li was able to fly out of the blood heavenly ghost's grasp as a streak of golden light. His body rapidly swelled in size mid-flight, and thick tufts of hard golden fur quickly grew over his entire body, while a pair of white tusks protruded out of his mouth. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a giant golden ape that was over 100 feet tall. A violent aura erupted out of his body, and bursts of black, baleful chi were dancing around him. This is a giant mountain ape. The blood heavenly ghost exclaimed in a surprised voice. The giant ape that Han Li had transformed into rushed back to over 1,000 feet away, then thumped its fists against its chest and let loose a long roar as it felt the tremendous strength coursing through its body. Even though Han Li's nascent soul had been sealed, the power of the true spirit bloodlines he had refined was still in his body, and upon recovering from all of his physical injuries, he was finally able to use his 12 awakening transformations again. 1. Unleashing this ability instantly brought a flurry of memories flooding into his mind. It's no wonder that you possess such incredible strength if you're related to this true spirit. I've been searching everywhere for someone like you. Never did I think one would show up on my doorstep. If I can refine this blood heavenly ghost flag again with your blood, its powers will be sure to be greatly enhanced. The blood heavenly ghost cackled as it launched itself through the air. It clenched its right claw into a giant fist before throwing a punch at the golden ape, and a vast expanse of crimson light erupted from its fist. The giant golden ape harumphed coldly as it also retaliated with a punch of its own, releasing an enormous burst of golden radiance from its fist. The 2 fists of completely incomparable sizes clashed, and an earth-shattering boom rang out across the entire sky, causing the sea of blood down below to tumble and churn violently. The blood heavenly ghost's body shuddered, and it was sent flying back by the impact. Its right arm shattered with blood and flesh flying in all directions before disintegrating into a huge cloud of blood mist, revealing the translucent blood jade-like arm bones inside. The blood heavenly ghost plummeted into the sea of blood down below, raising a gargantuan wave of blood. In contrast, the giant golden ape only swayed slightly before steadying itself, then lowered its head to cast its gaze downward. The surface of the sea of blood churned for a while before falling still again. However, in the next instant, a resounding boom rang out, and the sea of blood behind the golden ape split apart violently. Waves of blood surged in all directions as the blood heavenly ghost emerged from the depths. At this point, its shattered arm had already fully healed, and its eyes were glowing brightly with crimson radiance, seemingly having been completely enraged by the resistance being displayed by the giant ape. It reached down with one hand, and a vast wave of blood rose up from down below, transforming into a crimson spear that was 300 to 400 feet in length before falling into its grasp. The blood heavenly ghost then quickly took aim at the giant golden ape before hurling the spear viciously through the air. A sharp screeching sound instantly rang out, and the giant ape immediately turned around. However, instead of retreating, it advanced toward the spear while swinging a huge furry hand down with tremendous force. A deafening thump rang out, and the crimson spear had virtually only just left the blood heavenly ghost's grasp before it was swatted away. then shattered into countless pieces before disintegrating back into a wave of blood. The blood heavenly ghost was stunned to see this, and before it had a chance to take evasive measures, the giant golden ape had already reached within 1,000 feet of it before lashing out with both of its golden fists. The blood heavenly ghost fought fire with fire, raising its left arm to withstand the attack. A resounding boom rang out, and the blood heavenly ghost was sent flying once again. The blood and flesh on the left half of its body had been completely destroyed, revealing the translucent bones within. Right as the giant golden ape was about to give chase and press its advantage, an enormous wave suddenly rose up from the sea of blood down below, then transformed into a fearsome dragon's head in the blink of an eye. The dragon's head opened its cavernous mouth before closing it in a flash, devouring the giant golden ape right as it was about to catch up to the blood heavenly ghost. Immediately thereafter, a blood dragon that was over 1,000 feet in length rose up from the sea of blood, coiling its massive body in the air as it released a vast cloud of blood mist. Not far away, the blood heavenly ghost had already steadied itself, and the runes on its bones were flashing as bursts of viscous blood rose up from the sea of blood before intertwining themselves around the missing half of its body. New flesh instantly began to grow at a rate that was discernible even to the naked eye, squirming incessantly as it did so. Taking advantage of the fact that the giant ape had been devoured by the blood dragon, the blood heavenly ghost hurriedly made a hand seal while chanting a profound incantation. Bright crimson light glowed within the giant dragon's eyes as it instantly coiled its own body into a massive ball of blood. Crimson light was flashing erratically from the surface of the ball of blood, and it was also rapidly expanding like a balloon. A fierce look appeared on the blood heavenly ghost's face as it made one final hand seal. But right at this moment, countless golden threads of light suddenly pierced through a certain part of the enormous ball of blood, creating a massive bulge. Immediately thereafter, a resounding thump rang out, and a burst of golden light flew out before hurtling directly toward the blood heavenly ghost. Enveloped within the golden light was none other than the giant golden ape. It had only flown no more than 200 to 300 feet before an earth-shattering boom rang out, and the gigantic ball of blood exploded violently, forming an even more gargantuan ball of crimson light, which was still rapidly expanding in all directions at an alarming rate. Devastating shockwaves proliferated through the air, sending fierce gusts of wind sweeping through the surrounding area close to 10 kilometers in radius. Spatial ripples that were visible even to the naked eye appeared at the very epicenter of the explosion before fading in the blink of an eye. The giant golden ape managed to break out of the ball of blood in time, but it was still partially caught in the explosion, and several tufts of its vibrant golden fur had been singed. Thankfully, the injuries that it had sustained didn't appear to be very severe. If it weren't for his fast reactions, even with his formidable physical body, he would have still suffered significant damage from the explosion. The blood heavenly ghost looked on at the rapidly approaching giant golden ape, and it flapped its dark purple bat wings, instantly conjuring up two gusts of fierce wind beneath itself. Its enormous body then transformed into a blurry crimson shadow that retreated into the distance at an incredible speed that was far superior to that of the giant golden ape. At this point, it was already clear to the blood heavenly ghost that continuing to challenge the giant ape to a contest of strength was not a wise option. A cold look appeared on the giant golden ape's face upon seeing this. The giant mountain ape was renowned for its incredible strength, but its speed was rather lackluster, and there was no way that Han Li could catch the blood heavenly ghost in this current form. All of a sudden, the blood heavenly ghost in the distance let loose a ghastly screech, and a series of bulges appeared in the sea of blood around the giant golden ape, each of which was several dozen feet in size. Immediately thereafter, hundreds of crimson shadows shot out of the bulges before converging toward the golden ape from all directions. It was a horde of crimson ghostly creatures, each with a single horn on its head. The creatures had green eyes and sharp claws, and clouds of blood mist were surging all around them. The giant golden ape stopped in its tracks, and golden light began to radiate from its body. At the same time, it was rapidly shrinking in size and was quickly concealed within the clouds of blood mist around it. In the next instant, a clear cry rang out, and countless bursts of azure light erupted out of the blood mist. Fierce gusts of azure wind then swept through the surrounding area to sweep the blood mist away, revealing a giant azure bird. The bird was 70 to 80 feet in size with bright azure feathers and an azure feather crest on its head. Its wings were extremely wide, and when fully spread open, its wingspan exceeded the length of its body. There were also 3 long tail feathers trailing along behind it, giving it a majestic and mystical appearance. With a vigorous flap of its wings, the giant azure bird released countless gusts of fierce wind, leaving hundreds of azure streaks in its wake before slashing into the oncoming horde of ghostly creatures. Several dozen ghostly creatures were instantly sliced into shreds by the azure streaks, then exploded into clouds of blood mist. The giant azure bird spread its wings once again, transforming into a blurry azure shadow that flew out of the encirclement of ghostly creatures in an extremely agile manner before racing toward the blood heavenly ghost. This is the azure Luan bird. Who are you? The blood heavenly ghost exclaimed, then hurriedly flapped its wings as it fled the scene. However, the azure shadow was astonishingly fast, and it reached the blood heavenly ghost in the blink of an eye before flying past amid a flash of azure light. 3 huge wounds that were deep enough to expose bone instantly appeared on the blood heavenly ghost's chest, and blood erupted in all directions. The blood heavenly ghost reflexively turned around and raised its arms to retaliate, but by then, the azure shadow had already appeared behind it before flashing past its back. 3 huge wounds were instantly inflicted onto the blood heavenly ghost's back, and blood splattered everywhere once again, while one of its bat wings was completely severed. A furious crimson glow appeared in the blood heavenly ghost's eyes, and it let loose an enraged roar as it lashed out at the azure shadow with its powerful claws. Countless crimson claw projections were conjured up, then intertwined with one another to form a dense net. However, the azure shadow suddenly vanished on the spot, then appeared to the right of the blood heavenly ghost in the next instant, as if by instantaneous teleportation, then pounced like lightning once again. 3 more deep wounds appeared on the blood heavenly ghost's right arm, exposing its arm bones as blood erupted out of the wounds like a crimson fountain. The blood heavenly ghost let loose another furious roar as it attempted to retaliate. But unfortunately for it, it was completely unable to keep up with the azure shadow's speed. A series of blurry azure shadows danced around the blood heavenly ghost in a wraith-like manner, moving so rapidly that it was impossible to track with the naked eye. The blood heavenly ghost's body was instantly riddled with wounds, and its movements had also become quite sluggish. If it weren't for the fact that the translucent bones in its body were extremely hard and resolute, it would have already been sliced into countless shreds. A hint of fear finally flashed through the blood heavenly ghost's eyes, and it threw its arms over its own head as it raced toward the sea of blood down below. At the same time, an enormous wave of viscous blood rose up to meet it. Right at this moment, a clear cry rang out, and the azure shadow accelerated even further, dancing around the blood heavenly ghost at an unfathomable speed, leaving trails of afterimages in its wake. Ferocious gusts of wind were swept up, and countless long azure streaks appeared within the wind, filling the surrounding area in a radius of several kilometers as they tore viciously at everything. The wave of blood had only just begun to rise up before it was instantly struck by dozens of azure streaks, causing it to disintegrate and tumble back into the sea of blood. 1. For more information on the 12 Awakening Transformations, please refer to RMJI Chapter 4125, 12 Awakening Transformations.